Yogesh has joined. Okay. किसने बोला था?
We are not reading from the essays of the Gita.
Yeah, I'll tell. So we were reading the chapter which had started covering the second chapter verses of the Gita, the ones on the soul. Okay. So there the words were coming avikaryo yamuchyate, it does not change and all that. Whereas when we speak of the psychic being, we say that it is growing, right? And we use the word soul for the psychic being also. So we thought that it is better to get a clarification from Sri Aurobindo's letters as to what is the difference between the terms Jivatman, spark soul or soul, and the psychic being. So the last two sessions have been dedicated to reading those two letters. The recording is there, even on YouTube, it is there for easy access. So you will have to see them in order to catch up. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most people who said they will join have joined. Ritu Gandhi has not joined yet. Where is the 82? Rupa Khurana has not joined yet. Okay, we'll start. 8, 3, 4 people were there even before 8. Okay. So these are just short letters. I'll read and explain. There's no real scope for somebody else reading. Okay. जहाँ बहुत लंबा होगा, I'll ask somebody else to read. The screen is visible, right? The screen is visible to everybody. The letters are visible.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. So what we have read in the last two sessions is two letters from this chapter, you can say. Okay. The Jivatman, spark soul, and the psychic being. I'll just show the index, जैसे हमने पढ़ा है, for those who not been there in the last two sessions. So let's is on Yoga 1. This is the section, the Jivatman and the psychic being. From within this, we have read these two in the last two sessions. The Jivatman, spark, soul, and psychic being, and the Jivatman in a supramental creation. ये हमने because हमारा सबसे पहले आइडिया था to get clarity on this subject. So this we read in the session before last, and this in the previous session, and we had read slightly this letter, the Atman, the soul, and psychic being, but this was very short, right? So, and we thought that since I mean there is sufficient clarity, for the sake of continuity, I'll just probably or is it will be too much reiteration? Okay, we'll just read the first part of this for the sake of clarity, for the sake of continuity rather. And then I was like, what he has written on the Jivatman and on the psychic being, when you read those now, or clarity aati hai, some other terms which he uses, so you get a more clearer picture. So that is why, even though we are reading essays on the Gita, we thought that might as well, if it is needed 2 or 3 sessions, we will dedicate to this so that there is as much mental clarity as possible on this subject. Perfect clarity though can only come by experience, right? So this I am just rereading for the sake of, I mean, those who are not there. Actually, ज़्यादा हो जाएगा because we have read it last time. Okay, I'll just read. The Jivatman, spark soul, and psychic being are three different forms of the same reality, and they must not be mixed up together, as that confuses the clearness of the inner experience. So, first things first, they are three different forms of the same reality. Okay, but they are three different forms, and that is why he's saying they must not be mixed up together, as that confuses the clearness of the inner experience. Okay. The Jivatman or spirit is self existent above the manifested or instrumental being. It is superior to birth and death, always the same. It is the individual self or Atman, the eternal true being of the individual. This is the one that is unborn. Okay. गीता में 2.20 में जो आता है न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित ना नायम भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. So it refers to this Jivatman. The Jivatman or spirit is self-existent above the manifested or instrumental being. It is superior to birth and death, always the same. It is the individual self or Atman, the eternal true being of the individual. And the second thing, The soul is a spark of the divine in the heart of the living creatures of nature. It is not seated above the manifested being. That is the difference. Which is why वो जो two birds वाला था, when I pasted the passage from the essays on the Gita, so he said this one descends, and that obviously meant that the other thing has not descended. So मैंने वहां लिखा था, for those who want that image, उसमें clarity के लिए, it is not seated above the manifested being, it enters into the manifestation of the self. The soul is that which enters into the manifestation of the self, consents to be a part of its natural phenomenal becoming, supports its evolution in the world of material nature. It carries with it at first an undifferentiated power of the divine consciousness, containing all possibilities. But at first unevolved possibilities which have not yet taken form, but to which it is the function of evolution to give form. This spark of divinity is there in all terrestrial living beings, from the earth's highest to its lowest creatures, right? And then the third thing, the psychic being is a spiritual personality put forward by the soul in its evolution. Its growth marks the stage which the spiritual evolution of the individual has reached. So this is what I had been saying in the Essays on the Gita series, that all depends on how mature your psychic being is. Okay, that will determine basically your spiritual maturity and how much you are truly evolved as a spiritual being. Okay, its growth marks the stage which the spiritual evolution of the individual has reached and its immediate possibilities for the future. It stands behind the mental, vital, the physical nature, grows by their experiences. Herein I had said that for the psychic being, there is no real difference between pain and pleasure. There are terms like psychic sorrow used when the outer nature does not listen to the psychic being. So then this kind of feeling comes from the Antaratman, a kind of sorrow, but that apart, pleasure and pain and all these experiences, they are like food for the nourishment of the psychic being. For the psychic being, everything is experience. Okay, good or bad, evil or this thing, it doesn't really matter. It grows by all experiences. Okay, carries the consciousness from life to life. It is the psychic person, Chaitya Purusha. At first, it is veiled by the mental, vital, and physical parts, limited by them in its self expression, by their limitations, bound to the reactions of nature. But as it grows, it becomes capable of coming forward and dominating the mind, life, and body. This is the aim of sadhana, that the psychic being may come forward and dominate the mind, life, and body, which are normally united by the ego. So that egoistic element in them has to be removed by the coming forward of the psychic consciousness, and that true divine portion inside us that starts dominating our mind, our vital energies, our life energies, and the body also. In the ordinary man, it still depends on them for expression and is not able to take them up and freely use them. The life of the being is animal and human, not divine. When the psychic being can by sadhana become dominant and freely use its instruments, then the impulse towards the divine becomes complete and the transformation of mind, vital, and body, not merely their liberation, becomes possible. So these are like the एकदम sum and substance है जो हमने last 2 sessions में किया था. Now we are going to the very beginning of this session and we'll be reading about the Jivatman. There is a whole section in this on the psychic being. Maybe its turn will come for next time. We'll see. Okay. More important than the speed is the clarity, obviously. So the Jivatman in the integral yoga. Yes, Anjali ji.
If whenever you get the time, if you can find, I know that your window spoken on psychic entity. I just want to make sure that the psychic entity and soul spark
It is the same. It is the same. 1 minute. Psychic entity.
later on. I mean, I don't want to disturb this.
Okay. अगर टाइम मिलेगा तो इसी सेशन में हम कर. It is the same thing. There is no doubt whatsoever that the psychic entity and the psychic being, the psychic entity and the soul spark, these are two names for the same thing. Okay. So the Jivatman in the integral yoga, the Jivatman or individual self. So the Sanskrit word Atman, for that the English word is self, as we have said multiple times. Jiva roughly corresponds to individual. Jiva means living, and it is only when you find a thing living that you say it has an individuality of itself. So that is why, even though it's not exact, but जो English का word individual है, that is the sort of equivalent in English for the Sanskrit word Jiva. Okay. नाउ इसमें बाय जीवात्मा वी मीन द इंडिविजुअल सेल्फ। कभी कभी ये डाउट भी आता है कि पहले उसमें तो लिखा था जीवात्मन, अब यहाँ पे जीवात्मा क्यों लिखा है, वेर हैज द एन गॉन। ओके, समटाइम्स इट कैन कम। सो द आंसर फॉर दैट इज कि जो जीवात्मन है, ये थोड़ा ग्रामर में जाने वाली बात है, बट दैट इज व्हाट इज कॉल्ड द स्टेम ऑफ द वर्ड। संस्कृत में बोलते हैं प्रातिपदिक, जैसे सन्यासिन योगिन उसी तरह से, बट उनका जो प्रथमा विभक्ति होता है द नाउन वाला केस, दैट इज सन्यासी और योगी। इन दिस केस फॉर द वर्ड आत्मन, the first case is, I mean, for this Pratipadik, this stem, it is Jivatma. It is the same thing. Jivatman और Jivatma में कोई difference नहीं है, ठीक है? While going through this, I just thought कि I'll clarify even this much. There are some people on this group, Dhaval ji हैं जैसे, he knows Sanskrit, so you know, by Jivatma we mean the individual self. हम कौन है? We are the Jivatma. Okay? Essentially, it is one self with all others. But in the multiplicity of the divine, it is the individual self. ठीक है? So essentially it is one self with all others. So essentially we are one with all others, but in the multiplicity, the moment we don this particular manifestation that we are having right now, through which the divine is growing in a unique way, okay, we are all nothing but the divine growing uniquely, manifesting uniquely, expressing uniquely, knowing himself uniquely, आप जैसे चाहें बोल लें, but this is what the individual manifestation means. Enjoying himself in this particular fashion, अलग अलग वेज हैं पुटिंग के, एक्सप्रेसिंग, मैनिफेस्टिंग, नोइंग, एंजॉइंग, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा, बट दिस इज व्हाट इट इज। द सेल्फ इज द सेम, द एसेंशियल सेल्फ इज द सेम, the individual manifestation is the various enjoyment of the divine through these different forms. All right, he is enjoying himself by becoming this particular form, by becoming you, by becoming he, she, x, y, z, and through all other things that we may not identify as individual, but it is he who is enjoying himself by becoming those different forms. All right, just checking और कौन आया, रूपा जी has joined, Ritu Gandhi has not joined yet. Okay, right, it is the individual self, sorry, but in the multiplicity of the divine, it is the individual self, an individual center of the universe, an individual center of the universe. This is how we have to realize ourselves. Okay, an individual center of the universe in one step. We have to realize our transcendent self also, बाद में आएगा इसमें, and it sees everything in itself. Okay, जो ईशा के हमने कोट किए थे, सर्वभूतानि चात्मनि, all existences सर्वभूतानि in the self आत्मनि, ये आता है उसमें वर्स नंबर 6 में। okay, और itself in everything, सर्वभूतेषु चात्मानम, in all these beings, सर्वभूतेषु षष्ठी बहुवचन है उसमें, आत्मानम, it is the self. okay, और both together according to its state of consciousness and point of view. यहाँ पे तीसरा वाला मेंशन नहीं किया है, आत्मैवा भूत विजानतः, it is the self which has become all these. Obviously, because these are answers to a particular disciple, so according to his need of जो बताना था उसके हिसाब से the answer has been given. And you know, as I keep saying, कि these script, these spiritual writings, whether it is the essays on the Gita or it is the letters on yoga, they are not written from a mental consciousness. We are operating in a mental consciousness, therefore we go by this 1 2 3, ये पूरा हुआ कि नहीं हुआ, इसको काटा छूटा, ऐसे कुछ नहीं. It just flows. It is a divine consciousness at work. That is what is writing the essays on the Gita. That is what is writing these letters. और जब ये लिखे गए थे तो they were not even meant to be published. They were written for the disciples' individual question. Okay, this has to be kept in mind at least when reading the letters. Chat में क्या आया? Isn't this the same as the 3-point formula that you mentioned last time? Yeah, correct. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. All as the self, that's the first, when you come from top to bottom. All are in the self and the self is in all. These are the 3 poises of the self. Okay. So, and it sees everything in itself or itself in everything or both together according to its state of consciousness and point of view. So at an individual level, like these are the things that we have to realize. Everything we are containing in ourselves. This is a realization. Okay. We are seeing ourselves in everybody. Atmavat sarvabhuteshu. संस्कृत के एक श्लोक में आता है, बहुत ही सुंदर श्लोक है. 1 second. मातृवत् परदारेषु परद्रव्येषु लोष्ठवत् आत्मवत् सर्वभूतेषु यः पश्यति स पंडितः। ये सुभाषितानी में हो सकता है, आई डोंट नो द सोर्स, बट वेरी ब्यूटिफुल श्लोका कि ही हु सीज द वुमन ऑफ एवरीबडी एल्स एज हिज मदर, द वेल्थ ऑफ एवरीबडी एल्स एज मियरली मड, and everybody else as his own self, such a man is who is called a pandit. यह पश्यति स पंडितः। मैं एक बार और रिपीट करता हूं, मातृवत परदारेषु परद्रव्येषु लोष्ठवत। ईशा के भी फर्स्ट उसमें क्या आता है, माँ गृधः कस्य स्विद् धनम, डू नॉट लस्ट आफ्टर एनीबडी एल्सेस पोजेशन, राइट। मातृवत परदारेषु परद्रव्येषु लोष्ठवत आत्मवत सर्वभूतेषु, he who sees everybody else as himself, atmavat sarvabhuteshu yah pashyati sapanditah, right? So I think more is not needed on this letter. Any question, doubt, anything, any comment, anything so far from anybody? No? Okay, we read the next one. The self, atman, is in its nature either transcendent, then it is called the paramatma, or universal. Universal में he simply calling it Atma. If you want to be more specific, you can also call it Vishvatma. ये भी कहा जाता है, ठीक है। But if you don't say simply the word Atma, मैंने last time भी कहा था, by itself simply use the word Atma means the universal self. Okay, that which is one in everybody. Universe का मतलब ही वही है. It comes from the word uni meaning one, right? When it individualizes and becomes a central being. अभी तक ये टर्म नहीं आया था हमारी स्टडी में इन द लास्ट 2 क्लासेस, सेंट्रल बीइंग, नाउ इट हैज कम फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम। व्हेन इट, ऊपर वाले में जो था ना, एन इंडिविजुअल सेंटर ऑफ द यूनिवर्स, दैट इज व्हाट अ सेंट्रल बीइंग मींस। ओके, व्हेन इट इंडिविजुअलाइजेस एंड बिकम्स अ सेंट्रल बीइंग, इट इज देन द जीवात्मन। We are all nothing but individualizations of that Atman, so we are Jivatmans. Okay, the Jivatman feels his oneness with the universal, but at the same time, his central separateness as a portion of the divine. The Jivatman feels his oneness with the universal, but at the same time, his central separateness as a portion of the divine.
Atman and Brahman are the same, right?
Brahman is subjectively Atman. This is how he defines the 2 words in the Isha Upanishad. So when the Brahman assumes the subject wala form, when it becomes the subject, then it is called Atman. Brahman word जो है ना, the word Brahman is used in different ways, but एक वो एक सर्वव्यापी सेंस में यूज होता है, wherein it is said एकमेवाद्वितीयं ब्रह्म नान्यत् किंचित् अस्ति. There is Brahman alone, the one without a second. आत्मा वर्ड also is used like that, जैसे मैंने लास्ट टाइम कोट किया था कि one of the major Upanishads, ऐतरेय उपनिषद, it starts like this: आत्मा एव इदम एक एवाग्र आसीत. In the beginning, अग्र, आसीत मतलब थी, only the आत्मा was there. तो वो डिपेंड करता है अकॉर्डिंग टू द स्क्रिप्चर कि क्या वर्ड कैसे यूज हो रहा है, ठीक है। बट ब्रह्मन और आत्मन का जो रिलेशन है, शिव अरविंदो हैज एक्सप्लेन्ड इट इन द ईशा लाइक दिस: ब्रह्मन इज सब्जेक्टिवली आत्मन, ठीक है। समटाइम्स द वर्ड इज यूज्ड सिनोनिमसली, वो आपको कंटेक्स्ट के हिसाब से देखना, ठीक है।
I also had a question, Anmol.
Yes.
If like if I say that today God is seated in my heart, He is inside me, so then He is fully inside me, na?
Yes.
So then how am I an ansh of Him?
Because he is inside you, but you who are you, the जीवात्मा, तो गॉड इज कॉल्ड दी, जो गॉड आपके अंदर है, उसके लिए जैसे गीता में अगर आप जाएं तो वर्ड सर्वभूतात्म भूतात्मा कुर्वन्नपि न लिप्यते, राइट, दिस फ्रेज कम्स। तो वो आत्मा की भी आत्मा है, मींस ही इज द सेल्फ ऑफ द सेल्फ। ओके, सो आप जो हैं, आप जो साइकिक बीइंग के रूप में हैं इस मैनिफेस्टेड बॉडी में, ठीक है, वो उसके भी पीछे है, और आप उस फुलनेस की एक पावर हैं, एक पोर्शन है जो मैनिफेस्टेड है। In that sense, you are a portion. Do you get it?
Okay.
So
matlab
he is within you. He is within you, and all the possibilities are there within you. It is true. But आपके रूप में उन possibilities में से कितनी manifest हुई हैं, वो तो सारी की सारी नहीं हुई ना.
Okay.
That's how.
Okay. Thanks.
Clear? Okay. The self or Atman is in its nature either transcendent or universal. When it individualizes and becomes a central being, it is then the Jivatman. The Jivatman feels his oneness with the universal, but at the same time, his central separateness as a portion of the divine. Next. The individual self is usually described as a portion of the transcendent and cosmic self. In the higher and subtler ranges of the consciousness, it knows itself as that. But in the lower, where the consciousness is more and more clouded, it identifies itself with the surface forms of personality, creations of Prakriti, and becomes unaware of its divine origin. Self, when one becomes aware of it, is felt as something self-existent and eternal. Self-existent माने that which does not need anything else for being, for existing. जिसका अस्तित्व किसी और चीज पे निर्भर नहीं है अपने अस्तित्व के लिए. Okay? Self, when one becomes aware of it, is felt as something self-existent and eternal, which is not identified with forms of mental, vital, and physical personality. These are only small expressions of its potentialities in nature. So, in simple words, the self in us is that which is distinct from our mental, vital, or physical being and personality. That is how Mother also says कि how to identify which is a psychic being, कि जो इन तीनों से अलग है. What people call themselves now is only the ego or the mind or the life force or the body, but that is because they think in the terms of the formations of Prakriti and do not see behind them. जैसे हमने लास्ट टाइम कहा था गीता का 7.4 कोट करते हुए, भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खम मनो बुद्धिरेव च अहंकार इति यम्मे भिन्नाः प्रकृतिर अष्टधा. This is how the human nature is organized. This is the eightfold human nature. The 5 elements and man, buddhi and ahankar. Ahankar is the binding mechanism. Ahankar is the I sense. कि ये मैं हूं, right? That is what binds the whole thing together. And that has to be slowly but surely replaced and dethroned by the psychic being through the process of sadhana. वो evolution में वैसे भी होगा. Always to be kept in mind कि the evolution, our natural evolution is also taking us ultimately towards the divine because there is no other destination ultimately. गीता का जो 20.20 है, अहम आदिश्च मध्यम च भूतानाम अंत एव च. I am the beginning, the middle, as well as the end of all beings. So there is no other final destination for everybody except the divine. Only thing is yoga accelerates the process. And of course, yoga is done because we feel either the pang of separation from the divine that can happen, that usually happens when there is some kind of bhakti from the previous life, okay? Or there is some dissatisfaction with the life, vairagya in some form. वो वैराग्य के तीनों फॉर्म ऐसे ऑन द गीता में शिव बंधु ने कवर किए थे, राइट? बट दैट्स व्हाट इट एसेंशियली इज द कॉज फॉर स्टार्टिंग ऑन द पाथ. सो ये सिंपल इनफ है, इसमें कुछ खास है नहीं है. वी आर रीडिंग द नेक्स्ट वन. फॉर द मोस्ट पार्ट, धवल भाई बोलिए.
स्मॉल डाउट, एक क्वेश्चन है एक्चुअली. ये सेकंड लाइन जो लास्ट फ्रॉम सेकंड, सेल्फ व्हेन इट बिकम्स अवेयर, एक सादी भाषा में मतलब हिंदी एक नॉर्मल लैंग्वेज में इसको कहे कि जब किसी को ऐसा फील हो या कोई सिचुएशन में कि मेरे अंदर कुछ है लेकिन आई एम नॉट एबल टू आइडेंटिफाई, या व्हेन यू आर इन एन एक्सट्रीम सिचुएशन ऑफ लाइफ, देयर इज समथिंग विद इन यू व्हिच इज डीपली फीलिंग इट and is also hurt. Is that ego hurt? होगा तो ego होगा, या there is some kind of a despair or something which is there, which is so is that what that is, or is that still ego?
I didn't understand the question. I'm sorry, मैं नहीं समझ पाया.
When you go through difficult situations in life, you face the turmoil of life, there's something which within you feel deep, there's something is there, and you also feel the sorrow. But this identification, which it says here, right, is not identified with mental, vital, or physical personality. So, so is that, or is that still ego?
मिक्सचर होगा दोनों का,
Achha.
because you're still living in the ego, but you're feeling something of the depth of the soul. So जो
Mhm.
pure depth है, obviously that is the soul, but since you are not completely free from the ego, so it will be something between the two. It won't be a clear cut this or that.
Mhm. Okay.
डिपेंड करता है आप उसको कैसे देखते हैं. सी, इट इज सारा कॉन्शियसनेस का खेल है. अगर आपकी कॉन्शियसनेस ईगो से आइडेंटिफाइड है तो यू नो योर सेल्फ एज द ईगो. अगर आपकी कॉन्शियसनेस सोल से आइडेंटिफाइड है, यू नो योर सेल्फ एज द सेल्फ. इट ऑल डिपेंड्स ऑन वेयर द कॉन्शियसनेस इज प्लेसिंग इटसेल्फ. चेतना, अवेयरनेस, कॉन्शियसनेस अपने आप को कहाँ टिका रही है. डज दैट मेक सेंस?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
For the most part, the Supreme acts through the Jiva. Supreme means the Paramatma. For the most part, the Supreme acts through the Jiva and its nature, जिसको स्वभाव कहते हैं गीता में, and the Jiva and the nature act through the ego. पूरा वो प्रोसेस बता रहे हैं. For the most part, the Supreme acts through the Jiva, the individual center of the divine, and its nature, and the Jiva and the nature act through the ego. And the ego acts through the outer instruments. That is the play of the ignorance. Okay. इसे ये भी पता चलता है फ्रॉम दिस लेटर दैट हर एक जीव का एक स्वभाव है, एक नेचर है उसका, एंड इट इज डिस्टिंक्ट, मतलब एसेंशियली द सेम सच्चिदानंद. दैट इज द नेचर ऑफ एवरी थिंग एग्जिस्टिंग, बट इट्स ओन नेचर. वो क्या मैनिफेस्ट करना चाहती है. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट, essentially one jiva has the same nature as all, ये जो मैं बोल रहा था, but in manifestation each puts forth its own line of svabhava. And this is what is the true svabhava. This is the svabhava. True word भी लगाने की जरूरत नहीं. Essentially one jiva has the same nature as all, but in manifestation each puts forth its own line of svabhava.
And
Yes.
that individual swabhava that is put forth by the jiva depends also on the trajectory of the soul.
जो स्वभाव जीवा के अंदर अंतर्निहित है, इट इज देयर, इट इज इट्स पार्ट ऑफ द जीवा, वो जीव का स्वभाव है. एंड थ्रू द, वो जो आप ट्रेजेक्टरी बोल रही हैं, थ्रू लाइफ आफ्टर लाइफ, इट मैनिफेस्ट इटसेल्फ प्रोग्रेसिवली. वो अपने आप को अभिव्यक्त करता है.
माने the swabhava doesn't depend on,
नो.
suppose I have the journey of each one of us is from learning from A to Z.
So the journey depends on the swabhava. That is my understanding. Grana, each puts forth its own line of swabhava.
So every jivatman is essentially the same.
Yes, essentially every Jivatman has the same nature, but
When it-
in the individual manifestation, every Jivatman puts forth its own line of Svabhava.
I feel as if I could be completely wrong.
Hmm.
That swabhava that it puts forth in this life would be different from the swabhava it puts forth in the next life,
Nice.
because my trajectory is changing.
Yeah, so I also had the same question, Anmol bhai. I was about to ask the same. Thank you, Anjali ji, for asking. Because Anmol bhai, we read earlier. Sorry, Anjali ji, just interrupting and completing, adding more to what you said as a fortifying thing. Anmol bhai, in the previous session
In
we read.
manifestation, it each puts forth its own line of Svabhava. वो यहाँ पे in manifestation बोल रहे हैं, and this seems to me to be covering the manifestation of the Jiva as a whole. It's not talking about one particular life.
हाँ
Let's check it out.
हाँ अनमोल भाई देखिए ना, साइकिक बीइंग, सी जीवात्मन, अर्लियर वी रेड that it is above birth and death. So that means it never comes in manifestation. Point number
नहीं,
one.
वो मतलब नहीं है, हम उसकी बात, वो इट डज कम इनटू मैनिफेस्टेशन थ्रू द सोल स्पार्क एंड द साइकिक बीइंग। तो वो
हाँ,
वो अच्छा, वो जीवात्मन है ही किस लिए अगर उसको मैनिफेस्ट करना नहीं है तो?
नहीं, वैसे नहीं, सुनिए ना, let me just finish. It is the psychic being which develops through life. So the if the swabhava of the jiva is constant through all lives, just the psychic being is growing around that swabhava. Does it mean that is, or as Anjali ji is asking the same thing, that does the swabhava vary through different lives and it depends on the psychic being?
I
I
feel
don't know.
quite
From this, it seems that in manifestation, it seems to cover the whole of the manifestation.
नहीं, ये मैं अभी तक नहीं समझ रहा. Whole of the manifestation meaning scope of, we are talking of the scope of the swabhava here, right?
Yeah.
So scope में अगर देखे तो the scope is above birth and death.
Anmol and gang, I want to add one point. Tell me when I can give an update on what I think is absolute clarity on this.
Please go ahead.
See, nothing that Sri Aurobindo has said is away from life. If we look at ourselves and we look at any human engagement, the people that we meet are either you see them to be perpetually in a transactional mode. And if you look at the three gunas, they are either tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic. You can never meet somebody who is fully into any of these and will not reflect the other, but predominantly he's into one of the three. I meet people all the time who are always transactional. They may be others, but their swabhava is rajasic. The concept of who is experiencing the rajasic evolving to a sattvic and then becoming a trigunatit is what we are talking about, the persona of the spiritual entity, which is what has been categorically spelt by him, that this is it. This is what is the psychic being. He either evolves because he's going up, he's moving and evolving from a tamasic to a rajasic, predominantly to a sattvic, and then to a trigunatit. That's the personality, and that is what the Lord, the Param Atma, is enjoying. He's happy. Each of these processes he's experiencing. And what is it that's experiencing? Is the being, the psychic being. So the Swabhava is one of the three and evolving to the Trigunatit. That's what I understand. And tell me if it's different and you interpret it differently, Anmol.
नहीं, फिर जब वो त्रिगुणातीत पहुंचेगा तो तब क्या बचेगा फिर? Then what is it?
तो ओरिजिनल
जब वो Trigunatit है, that is what the psychic, this is the one soul which is entered into us, which is the psychic entity. He is perpetually in
नहीं,
that
देखिए,
Atman name of taking the Lord. All
no,
the
but
scriptures talk about Anhat. Anhat is the Lord enjoying himself and his own true essence. He's saying Om Aham, Om Aham, Om Aham, Om Aham, 24 hours. This is what you explained to us, saying that that cannot be done physically as long as you're tied to the ego. When you evolve above the ego, you are only a pure essence that, my Lord, it's you. And
I
that is the
understand.
psychic
See,
entity.
what I had understood is, I'll share with you कि सच्चिदानंद का जो मेन वो होता है, इट इज सच, चित, शक्ति और आनंद. सो इट विल बी फॉलोइंग वन ऑफ दीज 4 लाइन्स. और जो एग्जाम्पल मेरे माइंड में आ रहा था कि जैसे विभूतिज लाइक शंकराचार्य, दे आर फॉलोइंग दैट शक्ति एस्पेक्ट, कि दे आर लाइक अ रेजिंग फायर विच जस्ट इन 32 ईयर्स सारा मतलब उथल पुथल करके चले जाते हैं. इट्स दी शिवा एनर्जी एट वर्क. अनदर एग्जाम्पल ऑफ दैट इज विवेकानंद. ठीक है, अगर आप वैसे सेंस में लें, अदर विभूतिज जैसे तुलसीदास हैं या कोई है, वो उस तरह के नहीं है. दे आर मोर ऑफ द भक्ति स्टाइल, दे आर मोर ऑफ द आनंद वाले, उससे डिराइव कर रहे हैं. दैट इज व्हाट आई फेल्ट इनिशियली वाज द मीनिंग, कि आइदर ऑफ दीज एस्पेक्ट्स, आनंद, शक्ति और नॉलेज, वो स्वभाव जो है वो उनका वहां से डिराइव होगा. एंड दिस इज द स्वभाव विच विल बी विजिबल थ्रू आउट दैट मैनिफेस्टेशन, मतलब इन डिफरेंट लाइफ टाइम्स. इट मे टेक डिफरेंट डिफरेंट फॉर्म्स, बट उसके एसेंशियली पीछे जो रहेगा, इट इज दिस थिंग. मेरे को जो समझ में आया था वो ये.
Because when you say spiritual persona, Anmol, spiritual persona means that you are a spirit first and then you've got a personality. The spirit is only the Vigyan. You know, when we talk about the fourth kosh, the Vigyanmay kosh is always aware of the real existence, which is that one Lord. That is the bridge between the mind-body complex, ego, and the spirituality. That's what, when we did the Isha, it said the Vigyanmay is always aware. And that is the experience that the Lord himself has as the psychic being. Because the psychic being is experiencing everything. Today, when I'm born,
But
I
psychic being
am
क्या है?
always aware.
What is the psychic being? How is it defined? What is it
It's the
constituted of?
spiritual
उसका स्वभाव
persona.
क्या है? सबके अंदर साइकिक बीइंग ही तो है, बट कुछ साइकिक बीइंग के अंदर वो रुद्र भाव है इन द डिवाइन सेंस, कुछ साइकिक बीइंग के अंदर एकदम प्योर एसेंस वाला और निर्वाण की तरफ जाने वाली टेंडेंसी है. दैट इज, आज ही मैं कहीं पढ़ रहा था ईशोपनिषद वाले उसमें, और कुछ के अंदर वो ज्ञान वाला है. मतलब जो मेरे को जिस तरह समझ में आता है, मतलब मेरा दिमाग ऐसे ही चल रहा है अभी. सो
Yeah, but I'm saying, Anmol, when we meet people, we've all crossed a 50 milestone. The people that you meet, you categorically can experience them to be either tamasic predominantly
that is
or
not the,
rajasic
in
or
my
sattvic.
understanding, that is not the swabhava of the jiva.
Then what is the
Because
swabhava? I think
जीवा जो
that
है,
is something we all need to
जीवा तो
understand.
इस चीज के ऊपर है ना. द जीवा इज
अरे भाई, so swabhava क्या है?
मैं नहीं कह सकता, आई कांट से. वो जीवा का स्वभाव नहीं हो सकता. जीवा का स्वभाव तामसिक, राजसिक या सात्विक नहीं होता है.
अरे, when you say a spiritual persona, that means that if the spiritual is forgotten its true existence, everyone is that Lord. That's what the Isha says. Everyone is him. But you are in a personality of tamasic or rajasic or sattvic or trigunatit. Those are the only 4 milestones predominantly that you can evolve. And once you are on that Vigyanmay Kosh, you know, my God, it's me. That's you. It was never me. It was always you. It's you. It's you. If any of us could be 24 hours in the consciousness that it's you, if you could do a jap of Om for 24 hours, you would experience him. And you've said that even taking the Lord's name for extended periods of times, for days or months, gives you that joy. What is that joy? It's not tamasic. It's not rajasic. It's not sattvic. It's only him.
नहीं, इनिशियली चलिए उसमें नहीं जाते इंट्रिकेसीज में, बट इनिशियली यू विल नॉट इमीडिएटली टच दैट आनंद व्हिच इज बिहाइंड ऑल दिस. यू विल फील
it's not
काइंड ऑफ
immediate.
सात्विक जॉय.
When we see, the whole discussion began with both, the question that came is, what is swabhava? Let's answer that, because if we don't know what is swabhava, how can we even evolve to something better? What is our swabhava? Every individual has a swabhava. That's what
that
Shri Aurobindo
swabhava
has
is
been telling.
Satchidananda. The answer to that is that swabhava for everybody is self-existent delight, Satchidananda.
But we are not experiencing it as the
We are
psychic
not
being.
experiencing it because we are not living in Satchidananda. It is because we are living in the ego.
But we are still even if we are perpetually the psychic being, we are still living in our own swabhava. So what is our swabhava? I'm asking
just
a very simple question.
saying that is not correct. Saying that is not enough. No, I am the psychic being, but I am living in my ego. But I am the psychic being, so I am living in my psychic being. ऐसे थोड़ी ना होता.
No, Anmol,
One can
I
say
think the
I am
point
living
I'm
in the
making,
psychic being only when one is really living in the psychic being. ये
I'm
तो
saying when
mental
you
knowledge हो
read,
गई ना. This is not existential. This is not lived.
Anmol, all I'm saying is what you read about all of us experiencing a swabhava. I'm still at the swabhava. I'm saying that when we say the spiritual persona is the psychic being, that is what is experiencing all of these states, which is including swabhava. We've not experienced the psychic entity, but we are all experiencing swabhava. So I'm asking you again the same question that first Anjali auntie asked, then Dhaval asked. I'm asking you, what do we understand as swabhava? That's all my question is.
The problem is, मेरे को ये आंसर करने में इसलिए डिफिकल्टी हो रही है बिकॉज जो अभी हम पढ़ रहे हैं, ठीक है, हियर ही इज टॉकिंग अबाउट द जीवात्मन एंड दैट हैज नॉट इवन मैनिफेस्टेड येट. वो उसके ऊपर की चीज है. आप जो बोल रहे हैं, यू आर ऑलरेडी टॉकिंग अबाउट इन द लोअर हेमिस्फीयर, जब वो मैनिफेस्टेशन शुरू हो गया है. अब उसके अंदर तो स्वभाव इज, इंग्लिश वर्ड इज नेचर, और वो नेचर एज यू राइटली सेड प्रिडोमिनेंटली या तो तामसिक होगा या राजसो तामसिक होगा या वो होगा. एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू दैट इवन उसका वर्ण होता है, राइट, प्रिडोमिनेंस के हिसाब से. तो दैट आंसर इज ऑब्वियस जो आप कह रहे हैं कि वही है. बट दैट इज व्हेन द मैनिफेस्टेशन इज ऑलरेडी हैपनिंग. जो अभी हम टेक्स्ट पढ़ रहे हैं उसमें अभी तक आप मैनिफेस्टेशन में आए ही नहीं है.
Okay, I get your point.
यू अंडरस्टैंड माय पॉइंट?
Got it.
कि मैं क्यों अटक रहा हूं इसमें.
No,
क्योंकि
no,
हाँ
I'm absolutely now in sync with you. Got
समझ
it.
गए, क्योंकि जहां
So
पे अभी हम खड़े हुए हैं ना, अभी हम जहां खड़े हुए हैं, अभी तक हम मैनिफेस्टेशन में उतरे ही नहीं है. वी आर एट द
so
पॉइंट वेयर वी
Anmol
से
Anmol
व्हाट
bhai,
इज.
can I just
Yes,
add
yes, why
to what
not,
you
please,
said?
please go ahead. हाँ.
So I think it's, as you said, this is from two standpoints. If we are in the lower prakriti or the apara, this swabhava is as what you mentioned, the nature, correct?
Yeah.
That we know,
Yeah.
right? And which Gita explains in like man meets the battle, page 53, man and the battle of life. The most consonant with his nature, dominant in his nature. Now, when we are in the higher prakriti, as we said, the swabhava is that of Sachidanand, right? Now, इधर जो line
Higher
है,
Prakriti is Gunatita, and
हाँ
when the gunas are transformed, then the tamas becomes Shama, the rajas becomes tapas, which is pure energy, and the sattva becomes Jyoti. मतलब सत्व के अंदर भी जरा सा भी ignorance का element नहीं रहेगा. It will become full of light. ठीक है.
हाँ हाँ तो तो जब हम ये पैराग्राफ में ये लाइन जो है यहाँ पर जो हम पढ़ रहे हैं, जो ये कॉन्शियसनेस है, ये जीवात्मन लेवल की कॉन्शियसनेस है,
Yeah.
राइट?
Yeah.
नाउ उसका स्वभाव है सच्चिदानंद, जैसे
हाँ.
आपने अभी बताया.
Essential nature वही है. हाँ.
हाँ, एसेंशियल नेचर. सो यहाँ पर जो स्वभाव है, ये श्री अरविंद किस स्वभाव की फिर बात कर रहे हैं यहाँ पर? So put each one
उस जीव
put
का क्या
forth his
स्वभाव होगा, वो कैसे चलेगी. जैसे एग्जाम्पल्स दिए जाते हैं, जैसे जो एग्जाम्पल मेरे माइंड में आ रहा है मैं वही शेयर कर सकता हूँ.
हाँ क्या
जैसे पुराणों में आता है कि ब्रह्मा क्रिएटेड दीज 4 बीइंग्स, जो
चतवारो
सनकादि थे.
मानव. हाँ
ठीक है.
हाँ
नहीं, चत्वरो मानवा वो नहीं है.
अच्छा
चत्वरो मनवः इज मनूज, एंड दे मीन द ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय वैश्य शूद्र.
अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा,
मैं
नॉट.
उसकी बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ.
ओके, आई
मैं
सी.
बात
तो
कर
वो
रहा हूँ
लोअर
जैसे
नेचर
वो,
में आ गया. हाँ हाँ
या दोज 4 बीइंग्स जो वन ऑफ द ओरिजिनल क्रिएशंस थे. मैं स्वभाव की बात करने के लिए बात कर रहा हूँ.
हाँ हाँ, समझ
ही
गया.
क्रिएट्स दीज, जिनको सनक, सनंदन, सनातन, सनत कुमार बोलते हैं. एंड दे आर टू बी फाउंड इवन इन श्री अरबिंदो राइटिंग्स. यू कैन फाइंड देम. द योगा एंड इट्स ऑब्जेक्ट्स में आपको मिल जाता है, छांदोग्य उपनिषद में मिलता है. बट व्हाट वाज देयर स्वभाव? दे वर टोल्ड बाय ब्रह्मा टू क्रिएट, टू प्रोक्रिएट एंड टू डू द क्रिएशन. बट देयर स्वभाव वाज दैट ऑफ वैराग्य. तो वो खाली मेडिटेशन में गए और अपने आप को मेडिटेट ध्यान करके मुक्त हो गए, एंड दे केम बैक. तो उनका स्वभाव वैसा था. दे वर नॉट इंक्लाइंड टुवर्ड्स दिस काइंड ऑफ थिंग. प्रोजनी करने का उनका स्वभाव नहीं था. ये एक एग्जाम्पल है, समझ रहे हैं.
तो
अब आप
इसी
इसको कह
एग्जांपल
सकते
को
हैं कि जो
लेते.
सत चित शक्ति आनंद है,
हाँ
तो
हाँ
सत चित शक्ति आनंद में से उनका वो जो सत वाला जो था, वो उससे ड्रिवन थे. व्हाट दे वांटेड वाज द एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ प्योर एग्जिस्टेंस, एंड दे मेडिटेटेड एंड दे केम बैक टू दैट एंड सेड टू ब्रह्मा, वी हैव डन व्हाट वी फेल्ट लाइक डूइंग. यू गेट माय पॉइंट. देन
हाँ, तो इसका
प्रजापति.
तो इसका मतलब ये हुआ अनमोल भाई कि उन्होंने मेडिटेट करा.
तो हर
तो
एक
दे
का स्वभाव है
मेडिटेटेड.
अपना अपना.
हाँ, तो दैट मींस दे वुड हैव मेडिटेटेड लाइव्स आफ्टर लाइव्स, इज इट?
whatever we don't know, whatever. हाँ.
अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा,
हाँ.
ओके. नहीं, ये मेरे को यही कंफ्यूजन हो रहा है, इसका स्कोप क्या है? इज इट स्कोप इज दैट ऑफ द लाइफ, द एंटायर जीव स्कोप, और इज इट द स्कोप ऑफ द
Again, I mean,
साइकिक
मतलब
बीइंग स्कोप?
मेरे को जो because he's saying, but in manifestation each puts forth its own line of स्वभाव. So as I understand it, वो manifestation से उसके पूरे manifestation की बात कर रहे हैं. अब इसमें भी क्या होता है, इसमें जो डाउट आ रहा है ना, प्रॉब्ली इस वजह से आ रहा है. वी आर थिंकिंग कि जो इन्फिनिट पॉसिबिलिटीज हैं या जो ऑल पॉसिबिलिटीज है डिवाइन की, उसमें से एट द बिगिनिंग ही हमको लिमिटेड कर दिया कि हमारा केवल इतना स्वभाव होगा.
हाँ, ये वही, ये
ऐसा नहीं
वैसे
है,
ही.
ऐसा नहीं है, ऐसा नहीं है.
हाँ, ओके
आपका
ओके.
स्वभाव हो सकता है लेट्स से ब्राह्मण का, लेकिन जो बाकी तीनों क्वालिटीज हैं वो भी उसके अंदर रहेंगी, बट वो चीफली उस ब्राह्मणहुड को सर्व करेंगी. यू गेट माय पॉइंट.
हाँ, नहीं, वो तो हम लोअर
तो
लोअर की बात कर रहे हैं, राइट?
हाँ,
बट
हाँ.
यहाँ पर जो हम जो बात कर रहे हैं, ये जो ईच पुट फोर्थ ईच इट्स ओन लाइन ऑफ स्वभाव, और फिर नीचे की लाइन, सॉरी, आई एम जस्ट रीडिंग अ बिट अहेड.
हाँ.
इट हैज नो फिक्स्ड फॉर्म और कलर, दो इट मे रिप्रेजेंट
तो
इटसेल्फ इन
ऑब्वियस
अ
बात है,
फॉर्म.
वो तो ऑब्वियस बात है.
नहीं, वो तो बराबर है. तो अगर कोई उसको एट्रीब्यूटेड नहीं है, देयर आर नो एट्रीब्यूशंस और प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ द जीवात्मा आर नॉट देयर, that means it is exactly like Atman. Then Swabhav also is a property or an attribute of the Jivatman, isn't it?
हाँ,
नहीं.
स्वभाव इज अ प्रॉपर्टी ऑफ द जीवात्मन. दैट इज व्हाई सी द डिवाइन हैज वो जो इंडिविजुअलाइजेशन है ना, जो डिवाइन की इन्फिनिट 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 पॉसिबिलिटीज हैं, उनमें से एक पॉसिबिलिटीज एक जीवात्मन है, दूसरी पॉसिबिलिटी दूसरा है, यहाँ पे इस ग्रुप में जैसे 10 जीवात्मन है, ठीक है, they are
हम्म
all 10 different possibilities of the Paramatman, okay, and we
हम्म
are all having our own distinct swabhava.
Yeah, that is fine. I understand that part. But
हाँ,
will my swabhava remain all through my subsequent or previous lives the same,
your
or
essential
Anjali's
स्वभाव,
swabhava?
this is what I understand, that
हाँ
आपका जो essential स्वभाव है, yes अंजलि जी, we are coming to you, हमारा जो essential स्वभाव है, that will be the same throughout our manifestation. मेरे को तो ये जो समझ में आ रहा है अभी.
हाँ okay okay.
Yes अंजलि जी.
Preet, uncle had said very clearly. I mean, I'm only exactly saying what he said.
Anmol, it cannot be the same. It's evolving, right? How can it be the same? That means there's no possibility. When we read the last letter, Shri Aurobindo categorically said that you can never aspire. If I say that you have to be already in a space of achieving that state, and then only you can experience it, there's no evolution. How can you be in a perpetual fixed state? Because the spiritual persona, which is the divine, which is the psychic being, is evolving. So it realizes when what is realization? That you initially identify with the ego, but when you cut the ego, you evolve to a state and you say, My God, my Lord, it's you. Haha. So how can it not be evolving? That's my question to you. हाउ कैन इट बी फिक्स्ड? ये तो हो ही नहीं सकता ना. अगर आप हमेशा ही रहोगे फिक्स तो आप कभी इवॉल्व ही नहीं होगे.
ये
You will
नहीं
never
कहा
be in
जा
a
रहा
state of
है,
possibility of
वहां
realization.
मैनिफेस्टेशन के अंदर आने की बात ही नहीं हो रही है. फिर वही पॉइंट है कि आई मीन ही इज टॉकिंग ऑफ समथिंग व्हिच इज
Anmol, you can only realize the Lord when you take birth. It is only in the human form that you have the possibility of experiencing the divine and being in a state of bliss because you had forgotten
ठीक है,
this.
ठीक है.
You come into a realization that, my Lord, it's you. It's not
What does he
Yogesh.
mean
It's
by
not
then each
Anmol.
puts forth his own line of स्वभाव? इसका क्या मतलब है फिर?
Swabhava means that before you evolve, because when you say the psychic being is a
But what does it,
personality,
why does he say कि own line? एक आप सेंटेंस को दो पार्ट में देखिए. Essentially one जीवात्मा has the same nature as an all, ठीक है. तो essentially
correct,
देखा जाए तो हम सबका नेचर सेम है, ठीक है. But in
correct, correct.
manifestation there is a but in between. But in manifestation each puts forth its own line. इसका मतलब हम सब लोगों का स्वभाव अलग अलग है. आपका स्वभाव अलग है, मेरा स्वभाव अलग है. तो फिर ये अलग अलग क्यों
बिल्कुल.
है? अगर हम सबको evolve
अगर
करके गुणातीत लेवल पे ही पहुंचना है, तो जब गुणातीत पहुंच जाएंगे तो आप और मैं जैसे हैं बिल्कुल सेम हो जाएंगे. तो फिर हम अलग कैसे हुए
एब्सोल्युटली
बताइए?
गुणातीत का
नहीं है ना,
मतलब
वही
यही
तो
है.
कह रहे हैं कि ओन लाइन ऑफ
अनमोल
स्वभाव
अनमोल
है.
अनमोल गुणातीत का मतलब ये है that you realize that the whole universal consciousness is that one Lord, which is what Isha tells you. Isha tells you that there is only him. It's a realization that the persona goes through as a psychic being.
But
It
then what happens
finally
to my swabhava
identifies
and
with
your
the
swabhava?
psychic
After you have
entity.
attained Gunatita and I have
Yeah.
attained Gunatita, what is your swabhava and what is my swabhava then?
We are then in Satchit Anand. We
Nahin, but then
realize
what do
that
we
there is
do?
that one
Do
Lord.
our actions become the same because we have reached that same state? No, sir. Your actions will remain what your actions are according to
It's
your
not
line of
Yogesh
swabhava,
then, na
and my
Baba.
my actions will remain
Anmol,
according to my
Anmol,
line of swabhava, even though we are
Anmol, then there is
fundamentally the
no
same
Yogesh and
Satchidanand.
there's no Anmol. There is only Ishvara. That
But
is the bridge,
we will,
which
but
is
even though there is the same Ishvara, we will not be doing the same things. You will be doing what
it's
you are meant
because
to do. I
that
will
is
be
the
doing what I am
enjoyment.
meant to
One
do.
second. That is the enjoyment that is talked in the Isha, that all of us are eddies, which is identifying with the Lord and enjoying the game. Wherein you are enjoying Anmol,
I
I
am
am
not
enjoying
talking about
Yogesh.
that. I am saying once you have attained Gunati Tattva and I have attained Gunati Tattva, what is it that you are doing and what is it that I am doing? Please answer
We
that.
are instruments of the
No, 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 no,
divine
no, no.
will
I am not
playing the
talking about
game.
general things. I am talking about specific things. What are you doing? Am I compelled
I
to do
am
what you are
doing
doing? Are you
whatever.
compelled to do what
I'll
I am
answer
doing?
you.
Is that the case or not? Please answer that.
I'll answer you.
Yes, please.
Anmol, I'll answer you. I am the divine instrument doing
I am
whatever
not
the
looking for that
divine
kind of
wants.
answer. I am looking for specific things. What exactly are you doing? And what
I'll
exactly
tell
am
you.
I doing
I'll
at
tell
that
you.
point?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
Please tell
I
me.
am doing because of the journey that I had before I achieved realization.
Yes.
My skill sets as a tool of the divine are different from you. I will do what the Lord tells me intuitively that I should do because I am one with Him.
That is
I
your
am
line
now
of Swabhava,
Gunatit.
na? That is the line of Swabhava that you had been following through all these times when you were in the ignorance.
No, I was not identified with the Lord. I was Yogesh tied to ego. I was always Yogesh. Even in a Sattvic mold, I was Yogesh. When I break that mold and I realize, because I have now stationed myself in the divine, is when I realize, because that is the persona. The persona can only realize, na? Because it's him from the beginning. It was Yogesh was the Lord playing the game of thinking I am Yogesh.
Yeah.
When the Lord realizes that there was never a Yogesh, it was the Lord playing the game of Yogesh, either as Tamsik Yogesh, either as Rajsik Yogesh, or either as Sattvic Yogesh. But now, the moment I become Trigunatit, there was always the Lord. There is no Yogesh. That is the game. And then you are in delight. You say, ha ha ha.
Who is
It was
denying
you,
that?
my
But
Lord.
who is denying that? But after that has been attained, let's say for all the 10, 12 people on this group, once that state is attained, then what do they do?
They do exactly what the Lord tells them, because they are
Right.
not
And
identities of the
what they are
ego.
doing is determined by their line of swabhava, na, as he's saying here, that each
No,
jiva
there is
puts
no
forth his own line
Swabhava
of
then.
swabhava. तो इसमें
Arey,
problem
the
क्या है?
Swabhava becomes Satchit Anand at that stage,
Na
because
na
you
na
are
na na
only
na
saying
na.
it's you.
Satchidananda was always the case. Essentially,
But
one
you
jiva,
never realized
same
it.
nature and all.
I am
That
Satchit
same
Anand,
nature
but
is
do
the
I feel like
Satchidananda.
that?
वो तो पहले भी था, बाद में भी है, बाद में भी रहेगा, ठीक है? But every individual has his own line of swabhava.
But that Swabhava completely resonates with Satchit Anand and is in delight
Who
that
is
my
denying
Lord is.
that? But what is that? What is that स्वभाव is what I am asking. वो
That
एक स्टेप नीचे
Swabhava
जब आता है
is
सच्चिदानंद से, वो स्वभाव
that,
है क्या? उसको परिभाषित
that
कीजिए ना.
realization is that I
It's
am
not
your
realization.
instrument.
It's not realization. Is not स्वभाव. स्वभाव is what I do.
And then you are Satchit Anand. Anmol, there is nothing else. There is only Satchit Anand.
चलिए,
For a
then
realized soul, what is
मैं वही तो कह रहा हूँ
Vivekananda?
कि उसी सच्चिदानंद के जो ये 4 एस्पेक्ट्स हैं जिससे सारी चीजें फर्दर सब डिवाइड होती हैं, यू आर फॉलोइंग वन ऑफ दोस 4 एस्पेक्ट्स. और लेट अस से कि अगर हम उस पे अभी कंसेंसस में नहीं आ पा रहे हैं, तो आप अपने उस पे रहिए, मैं अपने उस पे रहता हूं.
हाँ अभी पार्क करते हैं,
That's
मैं भी
it.
वही
There is
वही
no
बोल
need
रहा.
to. There is
हाँ
no
हाँ
need to. अगर
Agreed,
कंसेंसस
agreed,
नहीं आ रहा है
agreed,
तो ना
agreed,
आए, क्या
agreed.
फर्क पड़ता है?
हाँ नहीं, लेट अस पार्क दिस. वो अपने आप क्लैरिटी, मुझे लगता है नेक्स्ट आर्टिकल जो है ना अनमोल भाई, जीवात्मन साइकी बिगिन प्रकृति, उसमें क्लैरिफाई हो जाएगा. somehow I have a feeling.
अंजलि जी wants to say something. She
हाँ
was
प्लीज से
saying
अंजलि
she
जी,
has
क्या बोल रहे थे आप कुछ?
शुरू से कहना चाह रही थी, वो एक ही लाइन थी, एंड दैट इज कि अंकल ने कहा कि नेपोलियन बोनापार्ट का एक स्वभाव था व्हेन ही वाज नेपोलियन. नाउ इन हिज नेक्स्ट लाइफ, व्हेन ही रीचेस द सोल स्टेट, ही मे चूज टू बिकम अ कॉबलर बिकॉज देयर इज समथिंग एल्स दैट ही नीड्स टू लर्न. सो हिज स्वभाव विल बी, माने कभी वो ब्राह्मण का रूप लेगा, कभी वो क्षत्रिय का लेगा, कभी वैश्य का लेगा, until he reaches the Trigunati. That's all that I was trying to say. But I could be wrong. And I think we should read up after this. Someday we should read up Swabhava and Swadharma to get a clarification.
नहीं, दिस इज ऑल हेल्दी फ्रिक्शन.
That
ये
comes
कुछ
very late in the
हाँ
essays on the Gita. पर हाँ, मतलब
Just to understand Swabhava and Swadharma someday, whenever we come towards the end of essays. Let's
there
now.
is a chapter no on in the our book only, essays on the Gita,
it comes
dedicated.
quite late. It comes quite late because 18th chapter में जो verses है ना,
हाँ
ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय वैश्य शूद्र वाले,
वो बहुत बढ़िया चैप्टर है, लेकिन
हाँ वो तब जा करके आता है. It's very far.
अच्छा उसको प्री
या तो
प्री प्री
या
रीड
तो
नहीं
उसको
कर.
पहले पढ़ा जाए, but then it will break the whole flow of the essays.
अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा.
For telling
अभी
us.
क्या करना है? We had started at around 8:03 or so. अभी 8:54 हुआ है.
नहीं कोई बात नहीं. आई थिंक
Further-
लेट्स पार्क दिस क्वेश्चन अभी. यस, लेट्स पुट इट एज अ क्वेश्चन राइट नाउ टू बी एड्रेस्ड इन फ्यूचर. ठीक है, और आगे चलते हैं.
Okay.
और वो अपने आप रिजॉल्व हो जाएगा. आई एम क्वाइट कॉन्फिडेंट. आई डोंट नो, आई जस्ट फील इंट्यूटिवली.
Okay.
अब नेक्स्ट में हो जाएगा जीवात्मन साइकिक बीइंग प्रकृति. प्रॉब्ली
अभी
सबके
तो वहाँ
क्वेश्चन.
पहुंचे ही नहीं है, उसके पहले 2 ये 1 लाइन
नहीं नहीं, वहां अटकते नहीं है, आगे चलते हैं.
Okay.
And,
The Jivatma is above all planes. It has no fixed form or color, though it may represent itself in a form. It has no fixed form or color.
But in manifestation, it represents itself in form.
तो आप जो हैं, आप उस जीवात्मा का एक फॉर्म ही तो हैं, और क्या है ये? This is nothing but a form of that जीवात्मा. Though it may represents itself in a form. We are all जीवात्माs. We are talking about ourselves. The जीवात्मा
हाँ. सो अनमोल भाई, ये भी लास्ट टाइम आपने कवर किया था. इट में रिप्रेजेंट इटसेल्फ इन फॉर्म. वो 3 फॉर्म्स है ना. रियलिटी रिप्रेजेंट्स इटसेल्फ इन 3 फॉर्म्स: स्पार्क, सोल, जीवात्मा एंड साइकिक बीइंग. तो ये वही फॉर्म्स हुए गए ना. isn't it?
फॉर्म, हाँ मतलब आप वो भी बोल सकते, जीवात्मा, स्पार्क सोल एंड साइकिक बीइंग,
हाँ
लेकिन दो फॉर्म्स हुए ना फिर उस हिसाब से तो,
हाँ
जीवात्मा
हाँ
के भी
हाँ
दो
हाँ
फॉर्म
हाँ
हुए।
हाँ, जीवात्मा के दो ही
यहाँ पे
हाँ
वैसे, यहाँ पे उनका मतलब फॉर्म से आकृति है, ही इज
हाँ।
मीनिंग अ शेप एंड अ फिगर, ही इज नॉट मीनिंग समथिंग सो सटल लाइक अ सोल स्पार्क और साइकिक बीइंग।
रूप
अच्छा 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 अच्छा
वो यहाँ पे साकार निराकार वाले आकार की बात कर रहे हैं।
अच्छा अच्छा, रियल मतलब कॉन्क्रीटाइज्ड फॉर्म है ये।
हाँ, अच्छा, द जीवात्मा इज अबव ऑल प्लेन्स, लाइक जो गॉड्स होते हैं, गॉड्स का भी कोई ऐसे फॉर्म नहीं होता, सो इट इज रॉन्ग टू थिंक दैट शिवा इज ओनली लाइक दिस और कृष्णा इज ओनली लाइक दिस, दे कैन अपीयर इन दैट फॉर्म। ठीक है, एसेंशियली दे आर फॉर्मलेस। और हर एक चीज के, बाय द वे, एवरीथिंग इन द यूनिवर्स हैज दिस ड्यूअल एस्पेक्ट, फॉर्म एंड फॉर्मलेस। लेट्स से, जैसे श्री अरविंदो का एक लेटर है वेर इन ही सेज कि यू बिकम कमेंसुरेट विद द यूनिवर्स इन अ योगिक एक्सपीरियंस। नाउ व्हेन यू हैव बिकम कमेंसुरेट विद द यूनिवर्स, he says, or even exceeding it, commensurate means of the same size as, or even exceeding it, then how can you say that you are having a form? But at the same time, आप एक मतलब ह्यूमन फॉर्म के अंदर हैं, तो आपका एक फॉर्म है भी जिसके साथ लोग इंटरेक्ट कर रहे हैं, बट इन योर एक्सपीरियंस यू हैव रियलाइज दैट यू हैव क्रॉस बियॉन्ड द बाउंड्री ऑफ ऑल फॉर्म्स।
हाँ, this then it makes sense, though it may represent itself
एंड
in a
दिस इज
form.
द केस फॉर एवरीथिंग।
ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है।
एवरीथिंग इन द यूनिवर्स हैज टू एस्पेक्ट्स, फॉर्म एंड फॉर्मलेस। और जिसको श्री अरविंदो सुप्रामेंटल ट्रुथ कहते हैं, वहां पे ये सारे के सारे जो हैं, ये बिकम डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ द रियलिटी। तो निर्गुण निराकार सगुण साकार, ऑल दिस जो कुछ भी है, ये सारा का सारा, ये वहां पे परफेक्टली रिकंसाइल हो जाता है। देयर इज परफेक्ट यूनिटी। दैट इज व्हाई ही इंसिस्ट, श्री अरविंदो इंसिस्ट्स कि बिफोर सुपरमाइंड यू कैनॉट हैव द ट्रू नॉलेज। अभी जैसे हमारा जितना भी डिस्कशन हुआ इस बारे में, ठीक है,
Oh,
तो
beautiful. I just एक dawn हो गया. It has no fixed form ना, और color, though it may represent
हाँ
itself
हाँ
in
हाँ
form.
हाँ
That means it is omni, any form it can take basically.
हाँ।
Oh, this is
ये
what it
omni
means.
omni के भी formulas के भी beyond है।
नहीं,
It is
because it
above
has
all
no
place.
fixed.
It has no fixed form or color, though it may represent itself in a form.
हाँ, because it has no fixed form, I'm neutral, therefore I can become some whatever I want to become.
Exactly. Exactly.
अभी ट्यूबलाइट हुआ ये लाइन का, ठीक है, थैंक्स।
Let's say कि you have realized that you are the Jivatma. ठीक है? You have reached that perfect freedom. And during that state, you want to appear to somebody in a particular form. You can assume the form that that person needs. सिद्ध लोगों के बारे में ये कहा जाता है, they can appear in whatever form the seeker is needing them to appear in. Right?
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you
got
have
it, got it.
realized that you are the Jivatma, then you have also attained to that perfect freedom. And once you have attained to that perfect freedom, you can appear in whatever form the person needs you to appear in.
Makes sense, makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Chalo, good. The Jivatma are always calm and peace. It is the nature, Prakriti, that is not quiet. And by Prakriti, he is meaning the lower Prakriti. He is not specifying it here.
Yeah, here he's saying, yeah, he means lower.
Oh.
Correct. Thank you. Yeah.
9. We will not be able to cover this letter today. पूरा मतलब explain, पर उसमें डिटेल में नहीं जा पाएंगे. What should we do? Pause here.
You just give it a
At
reading.
least read.
हाँ,
Yeah.
आप पढ़िए धवल भाई, please read it.
हाँ. The Jivatman, psychic being, and Prakriti. The spirit is the Atman, Brahman, essential divine. When the one divine manifests its ever inherent multiplicity, this essential self or Atman becomes for that manifestation the Jivatman, the central being who presides from above over the evolution of its personalities and terrestrial lives here, but is itself an eternal portion of the divine, and prior to the terrestrial manifestation, para prakritir jiva bhuta. Bhuta. हाँ, ये हाँ आ है बराबर. In this lower manifestation, apara prakriti, this eternal portion of the divine appears as the soul, a spark of the divine fire, supporting the individual evolution, supporting the mental, vital, and the physical being. The psychic being is the spark, growing into a fire, evolving with the growth of the consciousness. The psychic being is therefore evolutionary, not like the Jivatman prior to evolution. But man is not aware of the self or Jivatman. He is aware only of his ego, or he is aware of the mental being which controls the life and the body. But more deeply, he becomes aware of his soul or psychic being as his true center, the Purusha in the heart. The psychic being is the central being in evolution. It proceeds from and represents the Jivat, the eternal portion of the divine. When there is full consciousness, the Jivatman and the psychic being join together. Oh, wow.
ये
And the
बहुत
ego.
important है. This is the
Wow.
most important
This is the
sentence of
key
this.
line. Exactly. This is the
और
key
इस
line.
पूरे सेक्शन के अंदर ना मतलब फुल नॉलेज और अवेयरनेस की दृष्टि से दिस इज द की लाइन when there is
Yeah.
full consciousness, the Jivatman and the psychic being join.
Join together. This is what we were discussing
Then
in
there is no
different words.
difference. Then you have become the Jivatman.
Correct.
Then you have all the freedom and power of the Jivatman.
Beautiful. This line.
Please read the complete pad lijiye.
Yeah. The ego is a formation of nature, but it is not a formation of physical nature alone. Therefore, it does not cease with the body. There is a mental and vital ego also. The base of the material consciousness here is not only the ignorance, but the inconscience. That is, the consciousness is involved in form of matter and energy of matter. It is not only the material consciousness, but the vital and the mental too that are separated from the truth by the ignorance.
Can you read the last paragraph again, please?
Yeah, sure. The base of the material consciousness here is not only the ignorance, but the inconscience. That is, the consciousness is involved in form of matter and energy of matter. It is not only the material consciousness, but the vital and the mental too that are separated from the truth by the ignorance. The body is not the individual self.
We are not reading this ना, तो हम अगली बार पे पहले इस वाले को डिटेल में जाएंगे ना.
ठीक है, let's stop here then. ठीक है, yeah.
Regarding जो अंजलि जी वो था ना, not only the ignorance but the inconscience, that is the consciousness involved in form of matter and energy of matter. So जो matter word है ना, it comes from the word matri of Sanskrit, ठीक है, जिससे कि माता वर्ड आता है, मैट्रिक्स वो सारा. So it is the mother word भी उसी से आता है. The English word mother ultimately comes from there, and that is the origin of everything. So अपना जैसे evolution बाद में आता है, Sri Aurobindo says, पहले there is the involution. So when the Satchidananda hides himself from himself and becomes as it were inconscient, as if he has stopped perceiving that he is even there, total darkness, as if apparently, because essentially the Satchidananda, it can never become truly dark, right? That is the origin, that is the point from where the evolution begins. That is called inconscient, that is what is called matter उस sense में. The matri, the mother, the matrix, etc., etc. This connection helps in understanding what is inconscient. इसी को श्री अरविंदो ने सावित्री में बोला है, the dark mother.
Anmol bhai, but matter here, I think he's talking of the gross matter, but
that is consciousness is involved in form of matter. यहाँ पे हाँ वो और एक higher level पे use कर रहे हैं.
हाँ, because the earlier line says that ego is the formation of nature, not just physical nature alone. Therefore, it does not cease with the body. So subtle matter is
मैं आपको
मेंटल
बताता हूँ,
माइंड एंड
let me tell you. Just एक सिंपल से उससे क्लियर हो जाएगा.
हाँ
So what he calls the subtle physical or
हाँ
what he calls the subtle matter, ठीक है?
हाँ
That is a plane pre-existing before the evolution began.
प्लेन प्री एग्जिस्टिंग बिफोर, हाँ ओके हाँ
So when the अब ये when the Satchidananda involves itself, जब वो अपने आप को और ढकता है, it becomes grosser and grosser, grosser and grosser. It level comes when it becomes the kingdom of subtle matter. उसके बाद वो और नीचे जाता है, then it becomes totally inconscient. ठीक है? ये तो हुआ उसका डिसेंट का प्रोसेस, इन्वोल्यूशन का प्रोसेस, ठीक है?
बराबर. अभी एसेंट
एवोल्यूशन के प्रोसेस में आप वो सटल मैटर को सटल मैटर की जगह केवल फिजिकल भी बोल सकते हो. जस्ट कॉल इट फिजिकल फॉर द मोमेंट, ठीक है? नाउ जब एवोल्यूशन शुरू होता है तो ये जो किंगडम ऑफ सटल मैटर है, दिस इज हाउ ऑल एवोल्यूशन हैपेंस. ये इनकॉन्शियंट के ऊपर देयर इज अ प्रेशर पुट बाय द सटल मैटर प्लेन, and in response to this pressure the material plane or the physical plane comes out or evolves out of the inconscient. ठीक है? Confusion
हाँ
पड़ रहा
correct. No, that is true, because that is where the pain starts, because when it puts the pressure,
Yeah.
the prana puts the pressure, it starts animating the
So
inconscient.
if
That
you
is what.
want to say, you could also say कि जब वो पहले से प्री एग्जिस्टिंग है ना, दैट इज द फिजिकल, ठीक है?
अच्छा
और जब वो यहां से इवॉल्व होता है, दैट इज मटेरियल, बिकॉज वो मैटर के अंदर उस मदर के अंदर से निकला है.
अच्छा 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 अच्छा
You could
ठीक.
distinguish like this, just and that is what is called the true physical, the subtle physical, the subtle matter. That is what is called the true physical.
अच्छा नहीं, इतना तो मुझे नहीं
नहीं,
आता है
मदर ने
पर.
बोला है,
हाँ
मदर
हाँ
ने बोला है, वॉल्यूम 13 में है.
हाँ हाँ.
And that is where subtle physical is the place where is the dwelling place of Sri Aurobindo, she says कि वो जस्ट इस वाले प्लेन के जस्ट ऊपर वाला प्लेन है.
I see, now I get it. अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा. Okay, thank you.
ठीक है. नहीं,
पहले इन्वोल्यूशन के बाद, एवोल्यूशन स्टार्ट होने के पहले,
हाँ.
माने जो सोल्स जो अंदर आए इनटू एवोल्यूशन, impregnated the inconscient. It is they which helped in the like leaven.
हाँ. यस.
हाँ?
अब वो फिर वही.
It-
हाँ.
That's because वो आए तभी तो प्रेशर से they helped the inconscient to blossom.
You're right, but only thing is कि जहाँ पे मदर ने ये बोला है, there she does not use the plural. She just says the divine descended in the form of love, and that is what acted as a leaven, and therefore the evolution began. तो but you can take it in that sense कि वो जो परमात्मा ने, जितने भी जीवात्मा ने, वो आए तो उसी से ही है ना. The जीवात्मans.
But then I would like to correct myself that you are right, that that division, that multiplicity जो है, वो multiplicity started at the human form, I think.
Yes.
That multiplicity did not happen at the
Animal forms जैसे होते हैं, so you can't really even distinguish between the एक का चेहरा and the दूसरे का चेहरा. Not so much, you can't even properly distinguish. तो वो truly sense में कैसे कहा जाए कि ये multiple है, कि ये अलग अलग है?
I think where somewhere I read, or it was a discussion with you only, that the multiplicity happened when the mind was evolving, when the mental being started evolving. That is the time that the multiplicity started.
That is
So
true.
you're right that the souls did not evolve.
Mental being तो नहीं कहेंगे, because even when there is the vital consciousness is there. अच्छा हाँ, उस sense में. अच्छा, you mean the man, you mean mental being से the appearance of man. हाँ, correct.
That is when that multiplication, that division of that.
Yeah. ठीक है. 9, 10. We'll close with silence.
Thank you so much, Anmol.
नहीं मतलब I know it's not easy जो हम पढ़ रहे थे, जिस पे थोड़ा वो discussion.
Thank you. Yeah, Naina, it needs a lot of
It
reflection.
enriched the session. It made us to think. So
The discussion really
let
helped.
us see if later on we can come to clarity on this. मेरी
आ
जो
जाएगा.
clarity थी, I shared. I mean, Yogesh bhai shared his own clarity. So yeah.
We will converge.
Okay.
Yeah, it will automatically converge. Sri Aurobindo is
Silent
there
before.
and mother is there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.